right. Yes, it's okay. That's great. That's great. Thank you. We are really blessed with guys' proficiency on that instrument. Really, you're such a great pianist. You really are. I'd love to hear you on a big one. Well, it's because I didn't have this in my hand. Thank you so much. I'm juggling technology today. I'm not famous for that, juggling technology, but I need to get it. Oh, it's wonderful to be with you. I can see the clock. It's a good thing. Thank you for being here, for yourselves, and for all the people whose lives you touch. Thanks for caring about the life that's within us. I had a quote that I saw didn't make it into there, which is just fine, because actually I wanted to read it to you, because it's where I started for today's, whatever it'll be. It's always interesting to see how it shows up. So I really enjoyed Reverend Patricia's summary of each week that you have done in your exploration of the Sermon on the Mount. And I went and I listened to the Sermon on the Mount being read by a very youthful male pastor who believed every word of it. And I just closed my eyes and I let all of those words just fill me. It was a beautiful experience. And I thought, well, what could I do? I couldn't do better than that. It was so wonderful. And I remembered all the blessed be the, and blessed be the, and I remembered those from my childhood. And my thought was, did I ever wonder why they were blessed? Do I wonder why they're blessed? And is there a difference between blessed and blessed? Spells the same, sounds different. Yeah, I think there is a difference. But I'm going to let that be a question for you. But then I turned to another sermon, and it was Sermon by the Sea. And I read that, and that was Ernest Holmes' last sermon. And I thought, these two sermons are like bookends on an amazing bookshelf in our mind and in our heart about what is really the purpose of life. How are we meant to live as spiritual beings? And they both have the same energy. They both have the same purpose, which is to show us, to invite us to look at the choices that we can make that can create our lives. And while they're different, they come from the same place, from that heart that's overflowing with devotion and awareness and a feeling of oneness, of unity. And both of them showed a path of how to get there. And one of them had a quote. So I picked it up and I'm going to share it with you. And I thought before that I was going to follow that quote. And I even have an outline redesigned this morning in the wee hours that sort of follows that, but touches on my life in Ukraine for these past 23 years since I lived there, and which is another long story. And someday I'd love to tell you what these 23 years of living in Ukraine has meant. but not today, except to say I miss it terrifically. And I'd be there in a heartbeat if I could. And I will again soon. So the topic of today's talk is the revelation of the self to the self. Because that's what I felt listening to that pastor share the reading of the Sermon on the Mount. And that's what I felt when I read what Dr. Holmes wrote. And I had a huge mystic experience at Asilomar once, just huge, which I'll share with you sometime. But if I start today, we'll be totally lost over there in the ocean somewhere of all the things that there are to be shared together. So the revelation of the self to the self is what I felt was the purpose of those two sermons. And inside of it was a really great quote, and I felt like it was speaking to me. And where I doubt it, I hope that I'm open and willing enough to let it seek deeper in me. So maybe just close your eyes. Maybe just close your eyes and see how it lands in you. Only that which reveals me to myself can be a message to me. Only that which gives me back to myself can save me. And only that which leads me to God within myself can reveal God to me. So, what that has in common with those two bookends is the responsibility to know and be aware of myself and where I am and what I'm perceiving from this infinite world and what I make with it in my head and how I use it. This morning I met a guest who's with us today. He's Philip's uncle, and we've heard stories about him. Philip talks about him sometimes going to visit this wonderful person on holidays and things. Or maybe you just said that to me, but I suspect if you said it to me, you said it to others. But anyway, he said something to me as I walked in this morning. He said, Philip introduced me, and he said, "Oh, yeah, so did they call that the Anglican Church of Canada?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, you know, and we call that the Presbyterian Church here." And I didn't say anything because I didn't know, you know, if that, I mean, I don't know if we would call it that or they are two different things. I wasn't sure. But it made me think of that quote. It made me think about, you know, what do we know? What do we let in that becomes our truth? Because that's what revealing the self to the self is. It's like, what part of the self am I believing in? And how am I letting it in? And what are the choices I'm making that is exposing me to the plethora of angles of this creature that I am? What's really true? Is what's really true is that I can read these things and feel them, and so that means I'm spiritual? Or is it really true that when I see that person doing that thing again, I can, you know, I can just and think I know better? Which one of those is true? Both. That's right. But if we don't know that, we're lost. But then if we don't know that, we're innocent. So what do you do with all that? So that's where I thought we were going to go. But then I put the words blessed be in the middle of my mind map. And then I wrote blessed be. And then I wrote we, blessed be we. Because the thing I've learned in Ukraine, and partly it's because of what's going on in the world all around, is the preponderance of us and them in the world. That so much so that it's become what we believe. We think that's just the way it is. Now, it wasn't always like that. But you wouldn't know it if you talked to most people. It's just always been that way. There'll always be war. You always have to defend yourself. People are always going to try to get what you got. There isn't enough. There never has been. It'll always go down. It'll whatever. But what are those things? Those are just ideas. Those are just some person's perception. And what if, I love what if questions. Just think of a what if question that goes with what I'm just talking about. Just imagine, what if it could be different? What if right now we could say that question is leading me in that direction, or that them, or that us, or that way of being doesn't work anymore? What if it could change? What if this is the moment? Now, we've said that probably all of us have said it at least 100 times. This is the moment we've been waiting for. I'm here, I'm ready. This is it. And they are lots of little moments like that. But what if this is really a defining moment for humanity, this one that we're in? You know me pretty well, so you probably know that I believe that. And right now, I am banking my entire life on that this is the moment, and everything I do matters. Everything I do matters. And so my area between my books, my knowledge, my awareness between these bookends of what these sermons say is be here now, know where you are, be on purpose, be your best self, know when you're not, forgive yourself, get up again, keep going, be here, and do your best. And that's pretty common sense. I was raised on a farm. We didn't have electricity or, any of those things, and we did just fine. In fact, we did really well. And we knew how to be there because farmers have to know how to be there. That's the wonder of a garden, is you have to really be awake to the seasons and how hot the earth is and where the water is and how much sun it gets and all of that. So in Ukraine, I've done two different things. I've worked with adults for 19 years, and for 4 years, I've worked with children and their teachers. Mostly I work with the teachers, and I love the teachers. They are heroes. But when I'm working with the teachers, I'm working with the kids. I see them, the kids, and sometimes I get to see the kids, but not lately. And I see their pictures and I see their videos, and they send me things, every week we get feedback. I feel like Mr. Rogers. I woke up one day, I was making this little video for the kids, because that was the way I reached them. And I said, hey, do you know what we're going to be doing this week? We are going to be gardening. How many of you garden? Just show me. Right. Everybody in Ukraine gardens. Every kid knows how to garden. So I realized that day, I went, boy, this feels so good. Why? I don't know, but this feels like I'm entering into their life. And I went, where is my cardigan? Did I take my shoes off already and put on my sneakers? I felt like Mr. Rogers. I felt like I was accessing their life. I was inviting them to welcome me into their life. So for the past 4 years, we've explored several themes. The first 2 years were pretty innocuous, pretty, general interest themes. But once the invasion came, and once their lives were turned upside down, I realized that those 2 years had been preparation for what was needed today. And that was 2.5 years ago. And since then, nothing has been random or haphazard or casual. Everything has been on point, on purpose, right on, with total ability to say, wow, that didn't hit the mark. We need this. Oh, how to deal with hatred. How is hatred part of the official strategy? Both of those things are true. Hatred's part of the official strategy of any country that has gone to war, because otherwise you couldn't go. It goes against your nature. No one wants to go, especially people that are just defending their own land. They don't want to go and have to fight anyone, let alone anything else. But the path to patriotism has been the enemy. The enemy has given us a path to patriotism. And you can look at that right in our own country, and you can see how that works. And if you objectify anything, you can make it a vermin. If you can objectify anything by saying, well, that's the way they do. Oh, no, sorry. They have no respect for this. They believe in the devil. And so whatever we do is righteous now. You can see how easy it is to turn people against each other. Well, I'm sure you didn't just fall off the turnip truck either. You know that we make this stuff up ourselves, that we objectify the people we don't like that are different than we are. We call them others. We call them them. And we justify our behavior. We justify their results. Blessed are the poor at heart, for they shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. Do we see those others as poor of heart? How do they get to be others? Most of the people I know who are angry have a good darn reason to be angry. So with the children whose parents are off being the heroes, I teach them how to breathe and call it peace first, and I teach them how to put peace first in their life. And somebody asked me the other day, well, I remember when I was living in Santa Rosa and going to JC as a reentry student after I injured my back, spent a year in bed, had to learn to walk again, and finally got back to school. And my children got taken care of. I was able to do all that. I did a radio show called The Good News Show. And I loved that. And people said, there isn't enough good news for a show. So this era that we're in today isn't the only era that said that. In fact, we have our roots in thousands of other ideas that say it's not possible. So we're growing all this stuff totally on our own. And so I said, well, if there's not enough good news, start sending me whatever you can find. It was before internet. Well, maybe not internet, but before email. And people started mailing me things. I started with 2 or 3 things a week, and then I had to have 2 or 3 cartons. And then I went through it all, and I sifted it, and I found the best, and I talked about it for an hour on the Good News Show once a week. And at the beginning of every show, I started with 2 things: John Lennon's song, Imagine, and this. Towards the end of his life, a reporter asked Albert Einstein, what is the most important question facing civilization today? Just imagine what he might have said. And he said, "Is the universe friendly?" Now that does a lot for me. It sets a platform there that says, it's not saying, can you beat City Hall? Does one person's voice matter? No. Is the platform on which we stand, thanks to Copernicus, he didn't say, what if the universe really is flat? He said, what if the horizon is not flat, but round? What questions are we asking ourselves that feed into the us and them? Where in heaven's name would Matthew Fox, not Matthew Fox, but anyways, or maybe it was, who wrote the Sermon on the Mount, where would that come from if we hadn't asked the question, is the universe round? Is the world round? We would still be afraid to go and explore. We'd be afraid to fall off. But where in our lives are we not asking that question? Where are we afraid to stretch beyond the common story, which is us and them, good and bad? Where are we, blessed are the weak, blessed are the and you fill in the blanks, all of those, the children, the peacemakers, the poor in heart. That's us. The reason is, blessed is everyone. That's the thing. It's not just them, it's everyone. We are blessed. And we are blessed by the fact that we're born in a humanity, from it, for it. Whatever you call God, whatever God is to you, whatever religion, we're born from that essence for the purpose of revealing that. How? From letting it reveal the self to the self so that we know, me too. Me too. I'm blessed too. And when I know that, then I can look at you and I can see what I used to see no longer matters because I know that you're blessed too. And you and I are one. We are reflection. Te Maya Atrashanya. You are my reflection. Tolka Adin. There's only one of us. It's God. So I call it peace in Ukraine because I'm in the public school system there. And it is peace. I think that's what God is. I think God is peace. Some people think God is love. It's all fine. It's all one thing anyway. Doesn't matter what you call it, except if you call it only good for me or my version is better than yours, then it's lost its original intention. And then we're starting to misuse it. So what I do is I share the steps of putting peace first. And so when somebody asked me the other day, if you had a magic wand, which I've made several and none of them have actually done that, but if you did, what would you bring us if you could change something? And I didn't miss a beat. I'd say every single person on the planet learns how to put peace first. Because when you do, then you cannot judge each other without feeling the pain of that judgment right now in your heart. You cannot objectify the enemy with whatever has been told you without feeling like that enemy yourself because you're objectifying them. So why would not the most important thing we can do, learn to put peace first, especially because little children learn how to do it in a heartbeat and they are teaching their teachers. Why not? It's easy. Breathe, trust, give thanks. Now I could do a year's worth of lessons and bring you into that orb. But if you just breathe at the first sign of distress, who do I want to be? I want to be peaceful. And choose that. Just choose to be peaceful. So we share that with the kids. When they feel powerless and they're waiting for the next shoe to fall, or in their case, bomb, and they're worried that their parents aren't coming home, or that their home that's destroyed will never be replaced, or any of those things that they're dealing with, I invite them to know that they're a hero. Because they're putting all their gratitude to the heroes that are protecting the border, but they feel helpless, or they don't so much now, but most people in the country do, because they can't control this. But the kids who are going through our program, you can pick them out of a schoolyard. And I say, well, what matters to you? What kind of world do you want to live in? And they all have the answer. They know the answer. They'll tell you just like that. The one where we don't fight, the one where my sister doesn't pick on me, where the dogs are helped that get hurt in the street, or where there's enough money to plant our garden. And I say, well, does that really matter? Yes. How much? How much does that matter? A lot. Okay, what if you become the hero of the garden, or the dogs on the street, or whatever? You become a hero of that because it matters to you. So instead of feeling bad that you don't have it or you don't know how to get it, how about you decide that that's what's important and you just look for ways to serve it? Oh, we can do that. And so then I bring them a garden. And we list all the ways in the garden that the garden works. And what is needed for a garden? Land, sun, earth, water, boundaries, like so that people aren't tromping over it all day long. Plants, seeds, worms, shovels, buckets, jars ready for the tomatoes, the gardener. Okay, and then we play a game. Which one matters to you? What's the one that you like? What's the element that's really ties to what matters? What kind of hero are you? Oh, I want to be the sun. It just brings it in. No, I want to be the sun. And the teacher will say, breathe. And the kids will go, oh, yeah. Or the kid will say, breathe. And the teacher will go, oh, yeah. And so they find what they want. And then that cultivates in them not only the garden, but the quality of choosing what matters and being responsible for what matters. And then I say, so now you're the hero of the garden. You're also the hero of the dogs on the street. What kind of dreams do you have for your life? Oh, I don't know. This isn't a good time for dreams, the teachers say. I say, just the opposite. This is the perfect time for dreams. So let's dream boldly. So we do a whole 5 weeks on dreaming boldly. It was fantastic. The kids remembered that it was okay to be a kid. They remembered that it was okay to play because they felt guilty, because the adults were also freaked out. Let the children lead us, it's been said. So that's my experience there. And to do that, you have to let go what doesn't work, and you have to make welcome what does work. So that when you're dreaming with your eyes open, that you're awake. You're not dreaming to be a millionaire and you realize every time you look at your $2, you go, sugar Mary Ann, I wish I had more than $2, or why don't I have more than $2, or all the warlike stuff we say to ourselves. So that's what we do in Ukraine. We put those things together. And then we've just made a huge commitment, partly because of the times that we live in. We've decided to take on hatred as a social issue and bring it to the kids in a way that is soft and gentle and not political. And so we'll deal with it in the schools in the context of bullying. What makes a bully? What do we think of bullies? Why do you think that person behaves like that? Well, I don't know, maybe because, his mother's, sick all the time and his dad is always gone and working and maybe, it's that. Oh, could be that, couldn't it? Yeah. So we just look to find the blessed be the peacemakers and blessed be the poor in heart, and we look for the essence of those people that are bullies, and we can go, oh, have I ever been a bully? I use myself all the time. Of course I have. This is when I behave like a bully. It's like this. This is why. It's when I feel powerless, when I feel scared and helpless. when I haven't had enough sleep or enough to eat, or I think people are judging me, or they want my money, or they, haven't we all? We all have it within us. It depends on where we put our attention. And so then, we're talking about what's the opposite of hatred. Well, right now, it's acceptance, it's compassion, it's peace. We start with peace, and we work our way deeper. So I want to read you something as my closing today, and it came to me last night, and I didn't write it. I mean, it literally came to me last night. It was delivered to me last night. And it's by a poet, Chelan, Shalon Harkin. And please look for it, and I'll send this to Reverend Patricia, and please get it. Dear America, that's us, right? How many people feel like a poem to Dear America could mean you? I mean, I'm not happy with the way America's behaving, but here we are, right? This is the garden we're planted in. This is us. Dear America, and if I weep, just forgive me. That's not in the poem. In this time of tremendous change, where we are invited to bend instead of break, respond instead of react, and create instead of collapse, let us deepen our pledge. Rise with me. You don't need to. I mean, you can say sitting and rise with me in your heart. Put your hand on your heart. That would be good. Let's do that. Rise with me, put your hand on your heart, and together let us say, I pledge allegiance that our mother tongue is kinship, that our dialect is decency. I pledge allegiance to a goodness that has no polarity and a light that knows no opposite or corseting our power. I pledge allegiance to the breaking of every glass ceiling that once held possibility inside. I pledge to crown thy good with sisterhood and brotherhood. From sea to shining sea, America, let us pledge allegiance to writing new stories of kinship, of gentleness, and the power of coexisting. About the great courage that it takes to love, let us pledge our commitment to the grand journey of entering the bravest frontier yet, of finally opening our hearts to each other. Of finally opening our hearts to each other. May we pledge to be free from the limiting chains of cross-party antagonism. We do not have time to waste our valuable resource on this. May we pledge to remember that we have choice. And where to put our tremendous power, may we pledge to sign the treaty that returns all people to the native land of rightful dignity. May we pledge to remember to praise our nation's great rivers and forests and mountains and be their caretakers. May we pledge to be a beneficial presence as our short lives walk the soft earth. May we pledge to remember we are all working arduously, nobly, fumblingly with the heroic resilience to rise and rise again. May we pledge to come closer to the best of ourselves. May we pledge to remember that anything that hopes to attain greatness is always rooted in love. May we pledge that before we pull from the arsenal of divisive ideas and before opinions rise up like cavalry, to ask if there's a way beyond war. May we pledge to not having to know everything and to commit to participate in a nation that is open to learning and relearning together. May we pledge to have our allegiance to our true freedom. Freedom to break the old chains of superiority and to sing the anthem of the land of the truly free that is one in diversity. A unity rather than be threatened by its diversity. Knows that it is stronger and healthier for it. Let us pledge to stand together in knowing that we can rewrite ancient and ignorant stories that have made us violent beasts instead of soaring eagles. Let us pledge our devotion to the true land of the free, to the boundarless birthplace deep in our chest, where beauty again and again and again takes her first breath, America. No matter how far we are from where we're aiming to go, why not pledge to look at it differently? Why not say, I am a light, building a kingdom in myself, of myself. America, let us pledge to put our hearts together and consider how beautiful dare we make this world.